Hello everyone, it's Jessica again and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you a easy no-line watercolor technique. So to begin my easy no-line watercoloring technique, and I am stamping these images from the Beautiful Mermaid stamp set in different colors of Distress Oxide ink. There was a lot of footage, so I did have to kind of splice it up a lot, but I'm stamping the images in coordinating colors of different Distress Oxide inks and then using clear embossing powder over the top of each color. So if you've ever watercolored with an embossed image, you know how easy it is to watercolor. You don't have to worry about going outside the lines or anything. So this was a little bit of a play off of that, but using different colored of inks instead of like black or white, making it look like a no-line watercolor card. I'm also using the Mermaid embossing powder that came with the September kit, and this stuff is super glittery. I did proceed to get it everywhere. It never fails. I get glitter everywhere. I get paint everywhere. I am very messy sometimes. So I am heat embossing that, and this is beautiful. The sentiment I used, it has a pretty small font there. You can still read it just fine. It is still very sparkly after it's embossed. I'm using my water brush and I have stamped some of the peeled paint and twisted Citron Distress Oxide inks onto the silicone mat on the glass media mat. And I'm using my water brush to pick up some of that color and layering it down. I stamped the images and the colors that I thought I would use for coloring them in, and that'll help achieve that no-line watercolor look. So for the tall wavy grass, I used mainly peeled paint, which I did stamp that in. And then for the smaller, like seaweed looking stuff, I did use twisted Citron to stamp it, and then I'm coloring it in with twisted Citron. For the turtles, I use a combination of both, but I like the contrast with the peeled paint embossing and then adding in some of that bright green from the twisted Citron. Just really help bring those turtles a little more dimension. And it's super easy because you're just filling the wells of that embossed image. This would be kind of fun to kind of plan beforehand, kind of stamp it out and emboss everything and do a couple of these and then just take it like camping or on a vacation. Because sometimes I like to just take a few things to color while we go on our camping trips. I like to do something creative at least once a day or so, just to keep it going, just to keep the flow going. So I've colored in all my images, and like the fish and the little seahorse, I did use 2 different colors. And then I used fossilized amber for the sand. And now I'm going to use tumbled glass, and I'm using that for the ocean color. For the gold in my treasure chest, I am using a color box pigment ink in gold. And I'm doing the same thing that I did with the Distress Oxide inks. I just stamped it down on that silicone mat, and then I'm picking up some of that ink with my water brush and then watercoloring all the little tidbits in the treasure chest. It's still pretty early and I'm not quite awake yet, so my voice is a little raspy. I'm using the color box pigment ink because I thought it would just be fun to keep going with a non-traditional watercolor scene. So since I'm using the Distress Oxide inks and then the color box ink, I also wanted to add some more detail to the sand landscape. And I don't have well, I do, but I don't know where it is. I had a sepia micron pen, but I can't find it. So I'm using one of the Mildliner highlighters. These I've had for a while. I got them because I use them in my planner all the time, but this one is a brown one. So I'm just tracing the edge of the sand where it meets the water. And then I'm going to add in some more dots. So around the treasure chest, the stamp already stamps down a couple shaded dots for texture and depth. I'm just going to add more of those all over the scene. And because these Mildliners are a water-based highlighter, I'm going to use my water brush, blend out that ink. So you'll still see a little bit of the texture from the dots. A lot of the ink will get deposited over the fossilized amber and just create more shades of browns and golds. I've done this technique a few times with the Mildliners in like my travels journal, which I don't show a whole lot of what I do in that, but I have used it and they work great for those thinner pages. You don't need a whole lot of water to get those moving, and they do dry relatively quickly. Plus, you can always just use them as a highlighter because that's what they're made for. But I like to find alternative uses for things. It's fun. So next I'm going to add in some just white highlights with a Signo white gel pen. So adding highlights to the plants, the treasure chest, and then I'm going to actually add some highlights to the sea turtles too on their legs or fins, paddles, whatever turtles have. And then add a little bit of a highlight on the area on their head right behind their eye. Then I blend that highlight out with my water brush. I just wanted it to be a little bit lighter than the rest of the head. And that's another thing about the Signo gel pen, just like the Mildliner, is that they're both reactive with water. And you can get some really fun blends and techniques just by using these in combination with your inks. So if you don't have watercolor and you have Distress inks or Distress Oxide inks, you can go ahead and just play with those. It's great for if you have limited funds. That I would suggest the Distress Oxide inks, since they are such a good ink at stamping, and you can emboss them and then you can watercolor with them. They're very versatile, and I have been enjoying them if you haven't noticed. And then I wanted to add some color behind the easy no line watercolor piece, but I also wanted to add some sparkle to it. And the card kit did come with a piece of aqua glitter paper. It was a lighter blue than I wanted to use, so I thought that I could use the Mermaid embossing powder again. This is the same stuff that I used to emboss the sentiment. I'm also using the clear embossing ink pad that came with the Sea Treasure kit. I think the Versamark was the first ink pad for watermark or embossing that I ever bought, and I just kind of stuck with that one. So I was pretty excited to receive this full-sized ink pad in one of the card kits, and it's really juicy. I didn't have any issues. I think it covered a little bit better when I did this just ink pad to paper kind of a technique, but that could also be because it's just a brand new ink pad. So I'm doing this in sections. I'm applying the ink pad to part of the card base, the Nina 110 pound card base, and then I can pour the embossing powder over that section and then heat emboss it, and then I move on to the next section. And if I don't get enough coverage, then I can always go back through and add more. Since the watercolor piece is pretty textured and the card base was a little warped from all the heat embossing, I'm going to use some Be Creative tape, which is just a very strong double adhesive tape, and apply that to the back of the ocean scene no line watercolor piece, and then I can layer that over the top of that embossing powder. You just get a nice glittery edge around the whole thing, and it doesn't add any more bulk. It's all very streamlined. For the inside, I'm just going to stamp a couple of the same elements that I had used on the front of the card, and I'm using the same type of colors too. I'm going to skip the sentiment for the inside. That way it could just be whatever I want it to be. I think the front sentiment can go many different ways. So after stamping on the inside, I'm going to go back through with a Wink of Stella glitter pen, and this Wink of Stella one, it has a little bit more of a gold shift to the glitter than the Spectrum Noir one, so that's kind of why I went with that, just to tie in the gold from the treasure chest. Then I'm going to add glossy accents to most of the areas that I had colored with the sparkly glitter pen. And that is it for my easy no line watercolor technique. I hope you enjoyed that one, and Let me know if you've tried this before or your thoughts on it, and I look forward to hearing from you in the comments. Don't forget, guys, that I have a giveaway going on right now. It ends on September 5th, 2018. So if you haven't watched the giveaway video, go to my channel and watch that. And that's it from me. I hope you enjoyed today's video. You can connect with me on Instagram or email me directly or comment below with any questions you might have about card making. All the products I used today are linked on my blog. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to see the latest videos from me. I appreciate you, and I will see you in the next one. Bye! Meh, meh.